Hey guys, it's Jonathan Bocher here from PlayGuitar.com. I wanted to take a couple moments and give you kind of a taste of the kind of things that we're talking about in my new course called Dynamic Rhythm Guitar. The whole idea is to take, how can we go about taking very simple things, simple chord progressions, and making them interesting, giving them a kind of a new perspective, a new life, add some zest to them. Make it fun both to play and fun to listen to as well, and interesting and unique, right? After all, we've only got so many chords available to all of us as musicians. How are you going to differentiate the chords that you're playing from what the next guy is playing? So we're going to look at two chords today, okay? A little progression of two chords, E minor and C major. Sounds ridiculously basic, right? You'd think that, hey, we should be focusing on learning some really new cool chords and like making stuff complicated. But hey, you don't have to make things complicated to make it sound good. Sometimes you just got to add the right dynamics and make the chords that you're playing really fit the song through the way that you're playing them. So I wanted to take a look at a very, very, very common strumming pattern that probably you've used hundreds of times. Every other guitar player's used hundreds of times, and that's just the straight eighth strumming pattern. Okay, so there's different ways you could do it. You could do it all downstrokes, or you could go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, right? But most times when people are strumming, they're strumming all 6 strings. And I want to kind of get you to start thinking in a little bit of a different perspective, from a different perspective about how you strum. Because strumming all 6 strings isn't necessarily always the best choice. Well, there's another option, right? Just hitting the lower few strings. 2 or 3 strings. I like calling that a chug. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So we're playing eighth notes, but listen to the difference between that and playing the full strums. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. There's a huge difference between the two strums, right? I haven't changed chords, I haven't played any riffs, I haven't done anything fancy with my left hand. The only thing I've changed is what's going on with my strumming hand. So let's take a look at this chord progression, right? What can we do if we're doing 1 bar of E minor and 1 bar of C major and just kind of going back and forth between the two? I want you to experiment between playing, full strums, just in eighth notes, nothing complicated. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So there's 2 bars, E minor and C major, and we've just done down, up, full strumming, right? It has kind of a, it's not that it sounds bad, but it just sounds very common. And there's not a lot to kind of, think about what your strumming is saying. What are you communicating with that? It's just, bump, 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 bump. Everything's kind of the same. All the notes are out there all the time, every time. Versus if we just change a little bit and go to this chug that I was talking about. And all we're going to do is we're going to strum basically the lower 2, 3, if you want, 4 strings. It's not really specific. It's not really precise, right? The idea is just to get this kind of low sounding sound, right? And you're focusing on the lower strings because they're the lower pitch out of the ones you have available. And then of course the higher strings in pitch, I'm referring to the pitch, not to their physical placement on the guitar. And when I say lower, that always relates, it's chord specific, okay? For instance, the C or the E minor here, we're starting because the low E here is the root note of our chord. So we're strumming, say, strings 6, 5, and 4. But on the C major, the root note is actually right here, 3rd fret, 5th string. And we're not going to want to strum the 6th string. We're going to skip that one entirely and instead start our chug from the 5th string, so strings 5, 4, and 3. Okay, and one other thing I want to throw into the mix is to think about muting, palm muting, okay? With this palm here, and how you apply that to your strings. And usually I put my palm just inwards a little bit here from where the saddle is. You know, about an inch or 2 inches. Every guitar is going to be a little bit different, and of course it depends on your body structure and stuff like that, and in relation to the guitar. But in general, you're going to be somewhere here, just into the strings there, and you can just kind of rest your palm there and play around with the location of that, because the further back you go, the less mute you're going to get, and the further in you go, the more mute you're going to get, right? So that's something you can play around with. I'm not going to get into detail on that today, but I'll just give you an example. Listen to the difference, right? So we've gone from full strums down to chugs, and then listen to the difference between no palm mute, letting it ring open, and adding in a palm mute. And you can hear there's a big difference again, right? So here's letting it ring out. And then here's the palm mute. It's almost as big of a difference as there is between the full strum and the chug. So you can see how subtle little variations like this can all of a sudden give you a lot of different options to express things differently, even though we haven't changed the rhythm at all, right? We're just playing in eighth notes. It's just eighth notes works on almost every song known to man, right? Unless you're in, you know, triplets and stuff like this. But so many songs work with eighth notes. So let's find a way where we can express things better through the strumming using simple rhythms, but through the techniques that we're using with the strumming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn on a drum track here, and the drum track's pretty simple. It's you know, it's kind of like one of these bump flap kind of things, right, on the quarter notes. And but then there's a hi-hat in the background, and the hi-hat is the one to listen to in this case, because the hi-hat is going at eighth notes. Okay, so you want to tie in your strumming with the eighth notes. And along with the course, there's a few drum tracks provided, and all the examples are also, you know, locked into drum tracks like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn on this drum track, and I'm going to demonstrate for you a few different ways how you can, you know, the differences between these styles of strumming. And grab your guitar and let's go for it. This is at 75 beats per minute. One other thing I should mention is that if you listen close, I was emphasizing some of the beats above the others, right? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on the quarter beat, in other words, the one where you speak the number, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and those numbers are getting more strength, more force as I as I strum. And the and beats, which is the off beat, we're just really kind of pulling back, probably almost about 50%, something like that. It's just pulled back. And again, that's yet one other way that you can start adding in variation and adding dynamics into a very simple strum pattern, a very simple chord progression. And hopefully you can begin to see how just a few of these tricks start giving you a lot of different options for how you can take, you know, a simple song and make it something that's unique to you and special and interesting and fun to play with. So that's what we're on about in the dynamic rhythm guitar course. You can check it out and learn more about it at PlayGuitar.com/dynamics. And I hope to see you over there.